Well, good evening. I'm your host, Noel Clubb, here on the Clubb Tracks TV show, and welcome to Spanish Sports World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember, download the Zingo TV app from respective iOS and Android app stores, as the app is absolutely free. And while you download, please make sure to rate and leave us a comment because we want to hear from you folks. That's it. That's all. And Zingo TV is also available on Google, Chromecast, Amazon Fire, and Fire TV sticks. Roku and Roku sticks are also available on all smart TVs from 2016 forward, eh? All right, good evening to all the viewers around the world watching the show here. And unfortunately, Mark Cool Dude Duda, our co-host, will not be on the show this evening due to a conflict of schedule right now. But we'll come back next week on the show. But without further ado and delay, let's introduce our very awesome and very special guest here on the show this evening. And he is, of course, the founder, the frontman, the lead guitarist, the songwriter for one of Canada's best rock, reggae, blues-based rock bands around. Please welcome Gordie Johnson of Big Sugar here on the show. Welcome, Gordy. Welcome, welcome.
Howdy.
How you doing this evening?
I'm all right.
Very good, very good. Yeah, howdy. Yeah, how appropriate. Because I know you're saying earlier before the show, you're in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, I just live outside of Austin. Got my recording studio set up here and a video studio, and this is like production ground zero for us.
Oh, excellent! Isn't that the home base basically, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. So yeah, just share with us. So you're you're born in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Is that correct?
Yeah, I only lived there till I was about 6.
Oh, same. Oh, really? Same as me.
5 or 6. Yeah, and then we moved around. My dad was there because he was in the Air Force. You know, he'd been in Moose Jaw, and then he was in Winnipeg, and then he got in the car business, so that took us to like Windsor, Detroit. And,
in Detroit, Michigan as well.
Growing up there too, you know.
So how long were you in Detroit?
I was there twice. So we were there, like I said, from when I was 6 till I was just about done high school. Then we moved away. My parents lived out in Alberta, and then I moved back for a while in the 80s, and then eventually moved to Toronto.
Yeah, gotcha. So how old were you when you got to Toronto? How old were you then? Just roughly.
Probably, I was in my 20s.
You're in 20s by then, yeah.
Yeah.
And
it was a great time to live in Toronto, man. It was a great music scene, such an amazing community of creative people, and you know, a town that supported it. Yeah, it was pretty great.
Because you're in Toronto. You're playing about the early 90s, easily, right? Late 80s,
Yeah.
early 90s, when you're doing the circuit, doing the scene in downtown Toronto, for the most part. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when it was a great scene, especially in those times, amazing scene. So, who's your earliest musical influences?
Who are my musical influences?
Yeah, early on, growing up, who was your first primary folks that really inspired you to pursue music?
I would say more than anything, I was inspired by the radio.
Is that right?
Radio stations, because we lived in Windsor, and we had a great CKLW was an amazing station. It was an AM station that had a huge broadcast radius, so it got all through the Rust Belt on into Ohio, almost, I think it was as far as Pittsburgh even, and Michigan, obviously. So even though it was a Canadian station, they played all of the hit songs. It was a major station for A&R guys to try and crack, you know, the radio promo guys for record labels. You had to get a song on CKLW to make it a hit. So we got to hear amazing music in the early 70s. And then when FM came out, the FM stations coming across from Detroit, it was a mind-blowing array of, I mean, we didn't call it classic rock back then. Of course,
no, exactly.
Classic rock would have been from the 50s.
Exactly.
But in the 70s, you know, all those great rock stations, you'd have 3 or 4 different just album-oriented rock stations, and they all played slightly different stuff. You could tell that they had like slightly different tastes in music. In those days, listening to the radio was like going to your friend's house. Not all your friends listened to the same stuff. Some guys liked Kiss and Cheap Trick and Aerosmith. Other dudes were into King Crimson and Yes and Rush and stuff. So that's what the
Yeah.
radio stations were like too. You got to hear a wider variety by, you know, going from station to station. So that, which I did a lot. And while you're spinning the dial, you come across unexpected stuff too. You know, there was great soul music in Detroit. Motown, of course, classic.
Yeah.
But in the 70s, you know, Parliament and Funkadelic, all the way back to John Lee Hooker. I mean, all that music was coming from Detroit. So I got to hear a really wide variety of stuff.
Yeah. Actually, you kind of touched on a good point there about radio stations back in the day, because you hear more a record side, played actually an album side. I remember back in the day, a lot of stations I do recall growing up, rock and you name it, different various genres, but they would actually be a little more, you know, they play a little more, give you a little more exposure to that band or to that album they released.
Well, it's hard. It's almost hard to explain to younger people. Like,
yeah,
you're not that old, but at the same time,
no,
you know,
we're not that old. But
for them to grasp the fact that you never heard an entire side of a record unless you physically went to a store and bought that record.
Exactly.
And even if you heard it on the radio, you know, that would inspire you to go out and buy it. If you heard a whole side of a Led Zeppelin record or a Frank Zappa record or a Jethro Tull record, weird record, you'd hear a whole side and go, "Oh my God, I want to hear what else is on that record." So you'd run to the store and buy it, and then you could hear the whole thing, you know. So it was just the chain of commerce was different. You know,
exactly. So yeah,
it's harder to seek stuff out, you know. But that's why I say the radio was my biggest influence, because I could hear stuff I wasn't looking for and still find that I enjoyed it and learned to play it, you know, learn to play more styles of music doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same thing for me, same experience. And even just having some good friends, and my dad's friends growing up, having their record collection to kind of share with you a few records, you know, kind of, oh, like, I never heard of this group before. Oh, Lee Michaels live. Okay, this sounds interesting. You know, there's different find the bad bands you kind of find along the way. Again, you're right. The stuff you never think about, and you're being exposed to it indirectly. It's like, wow, that's really, it's kind of like you know, a bit of a kind of a life changing thing, because now it kind of adds more to your repertoire of what you're listening to now. So yeah, it's very special. Very special indeed. So what was your first guitar that you picked up? What was your first, how old were you, and what was the first guitar you picked up?
I'm going to say I was probably in 6th or 7th grade.
Is that
and
right?
I was the oldest of 4 kids, and all my friends were little brothers. They all had big brothers. All my homies and all that. They all had big brothers. I was the only big brother. They all had big brothers who all had guitars and drums and stuff like that. So I was like, oh man, these guys, they all get to play with their brother's gear, you know. I was like, I said to my parents, I'm like, hey, well, I'm an older brother, maybe I should get some musical equipment. They're like, oh no, you're not.
Bad idea.
No, forget that.
So
I was sort of relegated, because I didn't have my own stuff. I got relegated to playing the bass. They were like, well, all right, if you're gonna hang out with us, you can play. Look, Danny's got a bass. You can play his bass. I'm like, what you mean? It's only got 4 strings. Yeah, I don't know, just find the low notes and just do that. So like, okay. But you know, Paul McCartney was pretty cool. He played the bass. You know,
yeah, he sure was a cool guy.
Like, I love that. I actually realized how much the bass meant to me on all these records, Led Zeppelin records and all this stuff. Like, okay, the bass. So I picked it up really quickly, and I was just borrowing stuff. I mean,
is that right? I'm
trying to think of what that early bass even was. I mean, some of these things didn't even have a name on the headstock, you know.
Right.
But my dad got really good at it quite quickly, and I was playing on borrowed gear, you know. And much to my parents' chagrin, it wasn't going away. So my dad took me to a music store, and we bought a Gibson bass. And that was my first really good professional grade instrument. And man,
wow, that's pretty cool.
I just didn't put it down. I love that thing, man. I just played it.
Beautiful.
I played it. I carried it with me for years and played. And then as soon as I got that, I started working. I wasn't even in high school yet. I started getting paid.
Is that right? Interesting.
So that's not much of a deterrent, you know, when you're you're a teenager and you're getting paid 150 bucks a night. In 1979,
That's
that's a
pretty
lot of
awesome
money,
money.
man.
That's pretty awesome
Yeah,
money, man.
they don't even pay that much now. I'm not.
No, it don't.
Like, it's
No,
the
it don't.
only industry where it doesn't follow the economy, like inflate. It does not
No, so
readjust
true.
for inflation. Musicians get paid.
So
Bugger
true.
all
So
that.
true.
What are you gonna do?
No, so true, man. So true. So I'm gonna ask you, how did Big Sugar, like obviously the founder, but how did it all start forming and assembling Big Sugar?
Well, like I was explaining to you, I came up from a kid playing professionally. So to me, that always meant you book a gig, you hire people to play. So I always
Hmm.
found myself, even though I was playing with much older guys, I had to pay them. Like they had a price. And no
Right.
matter what the gig paid,
Yeah.
those guys were going to get paid what they expected. So it made me really have to hustle
Wow.
and get decent paying gigs. And we weren't going to stay at a crap hotel. Like these guys weren't having that. So to keep my employees happy, I was living in a flat above a bar with no running water. You know what I mean? That's but I was paying my guys what they demanded. So Big Sugar for me was always a business. I mean, I played the music I loved. Obviously, there's
Yeah.
not less love in it, but it was never like four guys from met in high school and jammed and believed in the power of rock and roll and went on to make it. I mean, that was not what happened with us. We didn't do that. I never was in a band like that. So I was, like I said, I was always hiring guys, and we would get hired to back other artists. Somebody would come from New Orleans to Toronto. The promoter would hire us to learn all their songs and play with them for a week or 3 days or at an outdoor concert. And we just did that a
Huh.
couple times a month. Different artists,
Interesting.
famous blues guys would come to town. We'd learn all their songs and back them up.
Wow. Very cool.
So that was quite lucrative, as opposed to playing a bar gig. You might make $100 each, and I have to pay my guys, and I often didn't take home any money. So we played all sorts of different gigs. At one point there was this high point. I remember my birthday. I don't think it's about 1990 or 91 thereabouts. It was my birthday week, and I played how many shows, man? I lost count because we were doing a matinee gig in a lounge or like at a
Oh yeah.
sports club, like at a racquetball club, and they would have a little cocktail lounge. You could see guys hitting a racquetball or squash, and then we would be playing jazz standards in the lounge. We do that
Gotcha.
from
Gotcha.
be there at about 6 o'clock and play till about 9, and that gave you an hour to pack up your stuff, get down the elevator, get to Chicago's Blues Bar and play, or go to the Black Bull or the Cameron House and play blues from 10 till they closed, and then go to the Matador Club and play from 2 till 5, play
Wow.
country and rockabilly and Fats Domino to Hank Williams, play till 5, got up, did an acoustic matinee at noon myself till 4, packed up, went and did the matinee at a racket club, went to Chicago's Blues Bar, played 3 1-hour sets of blues, no repeats, and then went to the Matador. Like we did that, went for
Wow.
days. That went for
What a
days.
schedule
And then
that
a
is.
Sunday matinee, and then an early like 7 to 10 Sunday gig. So that I remember that week. And when I got
Unbelievable.
to the end of that week, I just I
No
laid in my
kidding.
bed in my little suit and tie, and I think I just slept for 3 days.
Oh man,
But
that's
it would be
incredible.
hard to get that experience now. I know in Austin there still is a lot of jobbing musicians. It's a jobbing musician kind of town where, every band has a lot of the same people in it. There's different front people. But
Yeah.
I even got swept up in it to where, I was going out to play with a band doing Cuban music, I went out playing guitar, ended up playing a Cuban instrument called the tres, and then went from that to playing bass in these salsa and Cuban music kind of bands, you know. It was
Interesting.
a great experience and
No
something
kidding.
I
That's a
hadn't
fantastic
done
experience.
in 30 years. You know, I used to do that when I was younger, but and now I play bass in like a funk jam band at least once a week. And then I put a little blues band together just so that I could go play all the funky old blues that I like to play. And I'm not doing any original music. It's not like I'm doing. It's not a career thing. It's just to go
Yeah. It's just
to
like for
stay
now.
sharp, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it keeps
Yeah.
you. I come from a lifetime of that, you know. So
Yeah.
when you get to a point in your career where you just go on tour, and then when you're at home, you don't play music. So
Right. You
after I was
finish.
home for a year and a half, I was like, oh hell no, I'm going out and play some music.
But I mean, even the learning curve you're going through during that experience of playing that much, that often, all the different genres you're playing too. That's like to me, that's like listening to like the Wrecking Crew story, how they were the backup
Yeah.
band in the studio playing those different genres in the course of one day, and like your schedule, like into the morning, afternoon, night, into the morning of the next day, and matinee the next day. It's like wow, like that's a great learning curve for a musician to really
Well, and
diversify.
it's maintained my hunger and interest
No kidding.
for all kinds of music. And I think, you know, not I sure don't mean to diss my contemporaries. If you think of my contemporaries being other Canadian alternative rock bands that were big in the 90s, you sold a lot of records, you went on tour. There aren't any other ones like Big Sugar.
No, it's not.
They all, the rock and roll they made sounds like the rock and roll records they listened to. And we didn't listen to any rock and roll records. I mean, every once in a while, we'd listen to Black Sabbath or Led Zeppelin or Jimi Hendrix because he was funky. But most of the time, we were listening to soul and reggae and dancehall and old country records and blues records, Howlin' Wolf. I mean, we just didn't think that what we were doing was it wasn't supposed to fit with some kind of a scene, you know. We just
right.
we played
It's
it
your
all
own
through
scene.
loud
It's your own
amplifiers.
scene.
It was only rock and roll because we played it so damn loud, you know. That was the only thing
Yeah.
that made it. But to me,
Yeah.
you know, I don't think there's another Canadian rock band from the 90s that could put a Fats Domino song in their set or an old surf music song by the Shadows or, you know what I mean? Like
I
no one was
do. I
quoting
do.
Duke Ellington. Big Rec wasn't playing a Duke Ellington section of a song or
No.
quoting Art Blakey in one of their songs. Like, yeah, and it's not a diss, you know what I mean? Those people were doing what inspired them to make music.
Yeah.
They turned around and did what they want with it. That's cool. But that's not us, and that was
Yeah.
never
Correct.
us. So,
Correct.
you know, I mean, we all read our comments. You know, I look on YouTube and whatever the platform is, and I read the comments. And of course, you're always going to get people who go, "Oh man, without Mr. Chill, it's not Big Sugar." It was like, "Oh, that fool wasn't even on the first two records." You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
have come and gone out of the band. Gary wasn't the
Correct.
bass
Yeah.
player on a bunch of the records. I was.
Right. Right.
You know, I mean, all of these people have come in and out of the band, and they've all contributed this amazing musical personality. But it's always been a pot of gumbo. I mean, that sauce has been sitting on the stove for weeks. We keep adding to that sauce. We go, better another can of tomatoes. Better cut some more garlic. But that there's still sauce in the pot. You know what I mean?
Get more
The
spice.
only
Yeah.
constant is it's my kitchen.
Right.
It's my
Exactly. It's in
kitchen.
kitchen. Yeah.
I'll put in the pot what I want to put in. So it still, you know, especially rock and roll fans, they like to think of the guys that are on their favorite album. Well, that's the band, and if it's not those guys, it ain't worth nothing. It's like I don't know. I don't feel that way. I'm glad the Stones are out touring, even though
Yeah.
Charlie
No
passed
kidding.
away. It's like, come on, man. They still
Yeah.
sound great. They still sound like their own song. They should go out. ZZ
Yeah.
Top should keep on playing.
Yeah. Right
Without
on.
Dusty.
Without
I
Dusty.
mean, I
Yeah.
don't want to. They're my heroes, man. I don't want to see him. And time passes, people pass away, and people leave, and some get married, some get sick, some get well. It's all, you know. I mean, that's life.
Yeah.
Just
Exactly.
music keeps on evolving, you know.
Sure does. Sure does. Yeah, you raised some good points there. It was about some great artists. Yeah, it should carry on, and yeah, it's so cool. Here, Stones were going to carry on anyway,
Yeah.
before the news of Charlie's passing. So
I
yeah,
was glad to hear it, and it's horrible to have lost Dusty Hill
yeah,
and Charlie Watts in the same span of the same couple of weeks, man.
yeah, yeah.
Terrible. It's been a terrible year for that anyway, but
No kidding. We
um,
lost so many great ones this year, haven't we? It's been a really rough year.
yeah, Toots. That was a real hard one to swallow. I've lost a lot of friends during COVID, man, and
Did you?
some of them
Yeah.
to COVID. Yeah, and some of them to actual COVID too, which is really yeah, it's a little hard to it's kind of hard to swallow, you know.
No, it is. It is.
Anyway,
And that's absolute game changing stuff. This COVID-19 stuff.
uh, we don't want to dwell on that too much. Lots
No, we
been
don't,
said
man.
about it.
No
Well, you know.
way, no way, no way. Agreed, agreed. So yeah, I go back to 500 pounds. The CD from going back to the 90s there, mid 90s. I used to love, and I still love this very day, Ride Like Hell. It's just my favorite tracks of all time. Actually, my top three of all time is that track. I just love that rawness. It has that raw, and it's bluesy, and it's kind of grinding, and it's hard driving. It's such a great riff. I got to ask you, like, where did that riff come from? Was that just something you kind of invented through a jam? Like, where did it all kind of start from?
Okay, well, see how I told you about. To me, music is culture, and not. I took a very professional approach to it, but because I've played so many different kinds of music and all kinds of folkloric music too, where I'm talking about Cuban music or Tejano
Yeah,
music or Jamaican music, whatever. And these are all kind of what you call like oral tradition art forms, where riffs and even lyrical ideas, song forms, they pass down through generations.
yeah,
Robert
yeah.
Johnson is not the originator of anything.
No,
Muddy
you're right.
Waters isn't the originator of
It's
anything.
the evolution of that point in time. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, they burned brightly and they moved the culture forward
Yeah,
by doing what they did. But they were standing on the shoulders of giants, to coin a phrase. So as with Big Sugar, I thought, well, man, if I take this really seriously, I need to build on the building blocks. The foundations are already here. So all of our songs follow other song forms, and it's part of an oral tradition. So Ride Like Hell is not dissimilar to songs like uh, You Meet Me in the Bottom or Rollin' and Tumblin'. There's a lot of, that's a classic blues form where
yeah,
go
yeah,
to the four chord and you sing a line, and then you go back to the riff and everyone plays the riff. Then you go back to the four chord, you sing a line, then go back to the riff, go da do ba do do do
yeah,
do, and then you
yeah,
say a little something else, and then you finish it with the rhyming da do ba do ba do back to the So it's in its oldest form that we know, rolling and tumbling, which
yeah. I
kind
see
of
the same
goes
way
back
too.
to, it's almost like an English or a folk song or a Scottish reel where someone would sing a line and play the fiddle and sing a line and play the fiddle and sing a
Yeah,
line and
yeah.
play some more fiddle. I mean, it's much older than 1993, so
Oh,
that's,
absolutely, absolutely, it
yeah.
is. Absolutely.
So, I mean, I'm happy to take the credit for infusing it with my personality, but all of our
That you
music
did.
is, yeah, but all of our music is based on other things. So I feel weird even crediting myself as like, oh yeah, I am the inventor of digging a hole. Come on, man, digging a hole was written on a banjo, because to me it sounded more like a very old form of, the way black folks used to play banjo in the early 1900s. I mean that
Yeah,
we
right,
made
right.
it. We made a video for it. You know what I mean? It's like
That's right.
we were just moving the culture forward. We weren't inventing anything really.
Well, it's a great record, great track as well, man. Awesome stuff.
But
So
that
what do you
Ride
think?
Like Hell has made more introductions for me. And it continues to this day. And I mean, in all corners of our industry, I've managed to meet almost all of my heroes and people I love and respect for what they've done. At various points in time, man, I have to check my email all the time because emails, phone calls from total strangers come in like, hey, this is Jello Biafra. Man, I really love Ride Like Hell. It's like, the guy from the Dead Kennedys? Okay,
Very
but
cool.
that happened. Billy
That's so
Gibbons
cool.
and ZZ Top. We need to talk about Ride Like Hell. It's like, yeah, we do. Let's talk about it. I love you, man.
Really?
God, Billy, are you kidding me, Billy Gibbons? Yeah, I want to talk to you about Ride Like Hell too.
Wow, so cool.
Jack White. This the list goes on and on and on and on of people who went, yeah, Ride Like Hell, man. Okay.
That's so cool.
Okay. Hey, yeah, Ride Like Hell, baby.
Wow, that is so cool.
I guess I'm gonna keep playing it.
I think you should. Yeah, I think you should keep that one in the playlist for sure. No, I mean, I had no idea that song has been such a major starting point for a lot of people to be turned on to Big Sugar and what you're doing.
It got me to Texas, man. Honestly, I mean that all the people I know in Texas, I met them because I heard Ride Like Hell and said,
wow,
you need to come and play that in Texas. Come on down.
Wow.
So I came down. Early 90s,
so cool.
Started doing that. You know, the Rolling Stones, same thing. Charlie Watts was like, thought it sounded like Cream. I'm like, cool. All right, that's what you hearing it. Cool, man. I think he heard the improvisational aspect of it too, which he's a big jazz fan, so he could hear it. You know.
Yeah, I can hear for sure that jazz element there for sure. Yeah. No, that's so cool. That is such a fascinating little bit there. So I gotta say, you're in Austin, Texas, as you're saying earlier. Is Austin, Texas, is it still a songwriter's town? Well, you've been there for so long now. Is it still a songwriter's town, basically?
I would say it's probably got a lot more diverse.
Yeah.
Although it's already, I mean, there's a deep musical heritage here.
Oh, it sure does. Yeah.
You know, when you're standing in the dirt here, or you're standing on a street corner where giants have stood, you know, literally you walk on the stage. I mean, I sang, and you know, I produced records. I was working at Willie Nelson's recording studio, which is already pretty cool.
No kidding.
But by itself. But you're standing, you know, you're sitting on a stool that Waylon Jennings sat on.
Yeah.
Singing into a microphone that Ray Charles sang into. You know, it's like.
Yeah, that's so special. Very special stuff.
Yeah, you're breathing rarefied air in a way. You're standing in a space where, and you know, believe me, like Jimmy Vaughn lives down the road from me. Billy Gibbons shows up at clubs on Monday nights. You know, you're talking about the giants of a genre of music. You know, and you're up there playing the guitar, so you better be pretty good.
No kidding. No pressure there. Hey, no pressure whatsoever.
Yeah, well, but it keeps everybody on their game, and one of the great. Anytime I get kind of tired, of course, everyone who lives here, who's been here for a while, whines and complains about how Austin used to be a lot cooler. You know, how many Austinites does it take to change a light bulb? Well, if they've lived here for a long time, they'll just tell you how the old light bulb was way cooler.
Oh yeah, I mean, I imagine.
You know what I mean? It was cooler when we had this kind of light bulb, which it was, but at the same time, it's still pretty cool. But you know, I'll drop into some place on a Tuesday night, or just by mistake, I'll be ordering some fried chicken and hear somebody sitting on the stage playing, and you might take note of their name and go, "Oh, they're pretty good, but just pretty good." You know, I like what they're doing. It's all right. You know, they're nothing special, but it's cool. I guarantee you will see that person a year later, and they will be a monster, and you'll be scratching your head going, what in the hell transformation you did? This is how the legend of you made a deal with the devil. How you could not have got that good in a year. But we see that all the time here. I'll see guys playing a Hammond organ or piano in a club, and it was like, oh, I mean, there's better organ guys here or whatever. See them a year later and go, oh my God, what happened to
what turnaround that was?
Yeah, no, so it happens over and over again. And to me, this place does that to people, because you have to rise to the occasion every time you take it out of the case. Every time you sit down and sing, you need to rise to that occasion. You do that often enough, man, it does make you real good.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you're obviously fertile ground, you know, of great musicians and songs. So, being Austin, Texas, yeah, pretty cool stuff. Very cool, very cool. So tell me a little bit about going back to, we're still in the '90s there. The Hemi Vision album, another special record. Can you tell us a little bit about how that record shaped and formed while you're writing that record and making that record?
Well, it's really fun to go back and think about that, because we just released through Universal Music in Canada a vinyl version of that,
Yeah.
which meant having to find all those original recordings and bonus material and photographs, and really, try to revisit that time, because we keep moving forward. You do
Exactly.
these things one weekend, and then 20 years later you go, oh, well, I guess that was pretty good. Yeah, nobody was rooting for Big Sugar back then. We weren't poised to be anybody's next big thing. We didn't.
Right.
We didn't look like other bands. We didn't play like other bands. Alternative stations were like, they're too bluesy, and these guys are too old. Even 30 years ago, they said we were too old. You know what I mean? There's like, well, they have a harmonica in the band, and nobody want to hear that. Like, oh, I wasn't doing this for you.
Exactly.
I'm only doing it for people that like it. That if you're not in that number,
yeah,
move on, friend.
Too bad for
Just,
you.
You're welcome to. there's the door.
Yeah, precisely.
Have at her. So we kind of went into it fearlessly, because nobody was watching. No one was watching the store. We were unsupervised. Went in the studio and recorded a bunch of dub reggae and weird long psychedelic parts of songs, and we just playing the slide guitar, harmonica, and we didn't care. We were just doing whatever we dug. And at some point they got a new head of the record label, and the guy was from England, and he came in and heard us for the first time and went, what the hell is that? And that was John Reed.
Oh yeah.
He was an Irish cat, and he was working for Mercury England, and he came over. They sent him to Canada to get their shop in order, and he loved us. I was like, wow, but he loved us just for what we were doing. He heard Digging Home was like, that's a great tune, man. That's a great tune. No, man, that'll be your single. That's a great one. So I was like, okay, sure. And he loved Gone for Good was the other one that was supposed to be.
That's a great. I love that track, Gone for Good. I love that track.
Well, yeah, we ended up with 4 or 5 singles from that one record, sold, platinum record in the first 6 months or something. It was an amazing ride, especially since no one was paying attention. I mean, there wasn't like A&R guys were coming by saying, well, you need to, we need more hits. We need more. It's like, no, we have no hits. Hits. We don't make hits. No one expects that from you. So when it took off, then the problem gets to be where then they all want to have a say. Well, you have to have another hit record. So obviously you have to do everything differently. And we just went, no, we're not doing that. And so they actually came and locked us out of the studio at one point and said, no, you have to write with approved songwriters, and we have to get you a professional producer. And I was like, wow. Yeah, I feel like I'm not going to do that. So we went off and made Heated, the next record. We snuck off and made it in some little basement studio, and then went back to the big boy studio and polished it all up and just did what we were doing. And we're just like, no, man, don't you get it? We don't care. When you don't care, you're sort of way
more freedom now. Yeah.
You're kind of bulletproof at that point. It's like, well, what are you going to do to me? What kind of threats? Which you didn't have nothing to do with it before. What makes you think you're to do with it's going to make the difference here? So, and that's, for better or for worse, no regrets, but it probably prevented opportunities from happening. But if I think back to it, opportunities to do what? Shit I wouldn't be proud of now.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. To be not compromising your interest, your love, and your passion of writing what you write.
I'm the one that's got to live with it later. I don't want to be interviewed about it later. You know what I mean? When Big Sugar went away about 2002, we put out a record called Brothers and Sisters, Are You Ready? Yeah. And that was just kind of the end of it for me. I was just like, you know what? there's a committee of 12 people around this boardroom table, and everyone's got an opinion on every bar of music and every vocal sound. Is the vocal loud enough? Is this enough? And is it
Wow.
alternative enough? And Nickelback is a thing. And I was like, oh, for Christ's sake, would you
No
just leave
kidding.
me
That's
alone?
brutal.
So that's why we bailed, because it just got to be not about what it was anymore. And, you know, if I was going to have any regrets about it, they soon went away when, in our complete absence, a song like All Hell for a Basement
Right. Yeah.
became this huge Canadian classic. Bands cover it all over the place. Other bands have had hits with it.
Yeah.
And it was not a single. Big Sugar, the record company wouldn't release it as a single. They didn't hear it as a single. They didn't think it was to something. It says Alberta in it. We can't put that out in Ontario. Is that how it works? You're supposed to name the place where the what? Really? Since when?
No kidding. Yeah. No
I
kidding.
don't know. So yeah, so we bailed, and then, like I said, in our absence, it grew to be an even bigger record, even without us doing anything about it. So that was kind of vindication, you know, in a way.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I don't even have to be here and do anything. If the songs are good, people will want to sing them and hear them, and you know, it touches something for people that's not. You don't have to be told to like it. You know
Correct.
what I mean?
Yeah. It can speak to you on some level, and you'll identify with it. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still proud of it, and that's a song I've even sung it down here. I was at a garden party, and someone was like, "Oh, hey, we heard you're a singer." I'm like, "Oh, yeah." Well, sing us something you wrote. Okay. I sang that when people went, I don't even know where those places are. I was like, how did that? I don't know.
Oh man. Actually, I'll ask you too about another classic song that came out of nowhere, because I don't think it was even planned to be a single. Was "Turn the Lights On," which a great story behind that one too.
Not supposed to be a single. They wanted another dig in a hole. We need another dig in a hole.
Right.
That you didn't want the first dig in a hole. What the hell? Nope, we need another dig in a hole. Do you though? Okay. But of course, it's not what we did. We were just moving forward. We did other kinds of things. Like, no, we still don't hear that hit. So we went in the studio for a weekend. Like I said, we went to some dingy little basement place, no windows. Got in this little basement studio, a little 8-track desk, and we recorded maybe half of the songs on Heated in a weekend. Like we went in there and just sat down and went, these guys aren't going to leave us alone till we give them something. So cranked out on the scene, like did that in a day. Just like some, you know, some friends of mine had written a song that was just like on a joke tape, and I was like, that made me laugh my ass off. I love that song. So I said, do you guys mind if I write it into like not a funny song, but just kind of funny? Can we do something with that? But they agreed. Andrew Whiteman from the Broken Social Scene and Dave Wall. And so I monkeyed with that, and we just cranked that out in like a day. No, man, we need another Ride Like Hell. No, okay. So went back in, and Danny Gallagher, he was a big video VJ at Much Music back in the day. He was a good buddy of mine. Yeah, he was a great friend of mine, and he was sitting in the studio. Was like, no, you have to not listen to those guys. Like, just like write some kind of a soul thing, like, you know, she's a healthy dose of heaven for a man hooked on sin. I'm like, what did you just say? What? Hold on a second. What? Write that down. Yeah, really. Come on. And it's the same thing. We cranked out a song in a couple hours. Now we need another dig in a hole. God damn it. So we kept on just making up shit and putting it at, no, they're not. So finally I went, you know, I don't even care. You can shoot me here. I don't care. What would Toots and the Maytals do? Gary, what do you think they would do? So Gary and I were just hanging out, and I basically just wrote Turn the Lights On to entertain Gary.
Is that right?
I was like, you love some Toots and the Maytals and Desmond Decker, and we loved all those Rude Boy songs and that era. Yeah. So we just kind of made a pastiche of all the things we loved about that era of reggae. And did it like Big Sugar again, just sort of in an afternoon. And at no point did they ever concede. They were like, well, all right, I guess you guys are just not. All right. Well, I guess you guys are done. This, like, the bill's getting it big, and go in and mix your record. So we did, went in and mixed the record. All of those songs were hit singles. Some of them were #1 singles. They were singles, hit singles across different radio formats. Turn the Lights On got played on the classic rock station, on the alternative rock station, and on the urban station, and on a weekly reggae program the same day in Toronto. Yeah, I'm sorry. Moist didn't do that. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not dissing the Tea Party and Moist and all them dudes. They were rocking their asses off. But we weren't that. We weren't doing that. It didn't mean anything to us. What made me laugh all day was the song that was a toss off that nobody at the record label wanted to hear about. It was the 4th single or 5th single off of Heated. Yeah. Like, you were pushing your luck at that point. By the time you get to your 4th single, they're like, you're really milking this now.
Right, right.
But
it was all theirs. Great record.
Man, it caught on. And to this day, you can't lose. Every time we play it, man, it connects with people. So
I'm sure it's a must play in your playlist every night when you're playing, guys.
Yeah, it's one of them.
Yeah, one of them. Absolutely. Yeah, so you actually touched on earlier about Gary Lowe, which of course was with you for quite a long time, and sadly we lost him in 2018. But I want to ask you, how do you meet Gary Lowe?
Oh, I was a huge Gary Lowe fan. I mean, Gary Lowe never really.
Bass player.
He went and played in Jamaica a little bit, but he never really left Toronto. Artists would come to Toronto, and we had to get that guy. Yeah. So every reggae show I went to, they had to get that guy. So they had the Lion playing bass. Every artist asked for him. He played, backing up everybody from the classics, Ken Booth and Stranger Cole, all those guys, all the way up to like Buju Banton and Yellowman and all the modern dancehall guys. Gary played with all of them. So I loved reggae. I lived in Toronto. That was the reason to live in Toronto for me, was reggae and West Indian culture. I loved it. So I saw Gary play every week. Every time I went somewhere, I was like, it's that dude. I even knew his bass.
It's that
I saw
guy
his
again.
bass on stage on a stand. I was like, oh no, we're staying. We're staying. Because if that dude's playing, it's gonna be the shit.
It's gonna be killer.
So I was a huge fan of his, man, and I burned through so many bass players in short order, man. I went through like 5 or 6 different bass players, and nobody got it. It's like it just wasn't clucking. I couldn't get anybody to see what I was seeing and hear what I was hearing. A good friend of mine, Kit Johnson, he's a fantastic bass player, and I wish I could have had Kit, but he was busy, and he just finally called me up one day and said, hey, why don't you just stop beating up bass players and ask Gary to play with you? That's what you want everyone to do. I guess bass players talk or something, and he was hearing back from guys going, this guy's an asshole, man. He just won't give it up. I can't play like that. He said, I know. So I had to track Gary down through, very dodgy, phone this guy to see if he knows his mom, to see if you see Gary in the market, to tell him to, didn't even.
That's really tricky. Yeah, that's really tricky to maneuver that one.
But I found him, and I told him, we go on tour and we put out records, and we're real busy, and I'll pay you this much, and do you want to come over and, I don't know, just play a couple tunes and see if it's cool? Like, I thought I was auditioning for him.
Is that right?
How, in my mind, right? Wow. I thought I got to prove to this guy that I'm any good.
Yeah, you're worthy.
He showed up with a suit bag and his bass. He was ready to get in the tour bus. He showed up. I was like, well, are you coming from a gig or something? He's like, no, man, you talk about a tour bus. Like, oh, yeah, no. I'm like, not today. Not today. I didn't mean like, okay. And so he was like thinking he had to audition for me. I'm like, oh, no. I got to live up to what you bring. So that was, just another one of those things where I tried to surround myself with people that challenged me. I didn't want to be carrying people.
Yeah, I hear you.
I was tired of
elevate you more and more and more. Yeah.
you know, it made me strive. So having Gary definitely made me strive for a higher musical ideal. And, you know, it was really, it was pretty crushing to lose him to cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, you know, like without getting too philosophical, it's just, it's part of life, you know.
It
So
is.
he's
It is.
gone and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
But I am, you know, at the same time, he's got a 21-year-old son. And, you know, Gary said, watch out for my guy, try and inspire him to play music, which I've done. And, you know, I get to be godfather to this really talented
Wow.
kid who
That's so
has an
cool.
amazing heritage to live
So
up
cool.
to. And I bought him a guitar and a bass, and I FaceTime with him all the time. I was like, how's it going, man? How's it going there,
Yeah.
buddy?
Wow.
He's
What an
he's
honor
got up
that is. What an
he's
honor.
got up
Wow.
and sat in with Big Sugar a couple times when his dad was alive too, so he got to see it.
Oh,
But since
cool.
his dad passed, he's been able to get up on stage with us and play a few times, and that's a fantastic way to perpetuate
Yeah.
that
That connection you
bloodline,
had.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, was it true that he was self-taught? Actually, I've read this a few times over the years that he was self-taught. Is that true?
Well, we all were to some extent, but yeah, Gary didn't play music when he was growing up in Jamaica. He just heard it as part of his culture. It really got inside him, you know. When he came to Canada in 76, a lot of the great architects of reggae were living in Toronto. A lot of guys left Jamaica in the 70s because of the violence, political violence, and what
Right,
have
because
you.
it was really bad. Yeah.
And they had more opportunities in Canada. So a lot of great musicians were living in Toronto. Willie Williams,
Right.
uh, you
Yeah.
know, Leroy Sibbles, Jackie Matu. And all of the young guys looked up to these guys, you know. And the way Gary tells it is he was at a Jackie Matu session, and Jackie just said, "Youth man, pick up the bass. You can play bass." He was like, "No man, let me lie." He's like, "No, no man, must play bass. Pick up the bass, man. No, no, just pick it up. You play this one and then this one. This string on this string. You just switch." So Gary was like, "It's Jackie Matu, the guy who invented freaking reggae. So I'm gonna
No
have to,
kidding, right?
you know." So Gary, he rose to the occasion. I guess he just had a good feel and a good touch, and he made. I think he probably sounded exactly the same his whole life. There was a thing about his bass playing that you couldn't teach somebody.
No, you can't teach that. That's true.
It wasn't a technique. It was just he played it the way he felt it, and the way he felt it was just right. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
everything about it just it hit you just right where it's supposed to, and evoked a time and a feeling, and it was culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a cultural expression, not something you could write out. And so, you
No,
know, we're lucky to take part in that and have it be woven into the fabric of our music. You know, it's a debt to Gary Lowe.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've seen you guys live so many times over the years, and yeah, his bass playing to me has always been like very, very. It's kind of like warm and fuzzies. It's like it's really like really kind of like to me. It has like a very harmonic feel to it, and it has a very kind of funky, and it's also hard
Yeah.
driving at times. And yeah, I just love it. I love his playing. I love you guys watching you guys live over the years too. It's fantastic stuff. Love it, man. So I was gonna ask you, do you have any rituals you do perform before you play live? Are you kind of nervous before you perform live? Do you have any kind of rituals you do before playing live?
Uh, no, not really. I mean, to me, the whole day becomes about the show, and it's like this for a lot of guys. If you're on tour, I mean, you're waking up in a hotel, or worse, in an airplane seat, or worse, in a minivan. You wake up and like you've been driving all night. So even the fanciest shows, you know, you don't know what a person's been through to get there, to be treated like a
So true.
star. But what you had to, you know, you had to like brush your teeth in a Husky truck stop bathroom the hour before you hit the big town, you know. So for me, it's getting enough sleep, because the singing is hard. It's hard on the body. It's really hard on your whole upper torso, man. It's like I sing right from down in the bottom. So it can be very exhausting, and your throat is a delicate bunch of muscles, so
Yeah.
they need
Yeah.
time to heal. So to me, not talking is a big deal.
Oh, is that right, eh?
Oh yeah, no, I'll talk in a baby voice. I'll raise my voice like 2 or 3 octaves and just talk in a little whispery baby voice to my wife all day, which she kind of loves. Finding a good coffee is just part of what makes it feel like normal life. Is I get on, and thank God for iPhones and Google and Yelp and all these things now, because in every town, the first thing I see when I wake up is like, where's the nearest Italian social club or a coffee bar? You know, I'll look that
Yeah.
up.
You want the good coffee, the real good
Yeah.
stuff.
So, I'll find some little Italian club or bakery or something and go and eat an Italian pastry, drink a coffee. That's the start of my day. And if I've had that, everything else kind of fall in place. I don't need to eat very much. I don't like to necessarily eat very much on a show day, although I love food. I mean, good food can make or break my day. But I'm usually good with just like whatever's in the dressing room. We try to have like good bread or pita bread or a baguette or a ciabatta and some hummus or some Italian deli meats and cheese and just things like that. So a glass of wine and a little bit of that. That is the best show day dinner. And then I love to eat like a ravenous,
Afterwards,
a ravenous wild animal after the show. Like a big Italian dinner after a gig, nothing better. Before a gig, nothing worse.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, no kidding. So before we go, what's one of the biggest highlights for you, like in your whole career? Is there any kind of moment for you that kind of stands out? I know because you have so many moments and you've done so many great things. Is there a moment that stands out for you?
No, it really is a continuum. I mean, I feel like I'm still in it.
For you, right?
Fortunately, I haven't done a lot of looking back except recently, because we're doing a lot of vinyl reissues. Heated's coming out as a vinyl reissue. Cool. 500 Pounds vinyl reissue. Hemivision vinyl. So I've had to go through archives, which has been fun, to going down memory lane. But I tend to not look back too much because I'm not trying to recreate anything.
Yeah,
I want to breathe life into something fresh every day that I pick up a guitar. So I'm always challenging myself and bringing, because that to me was what was great about it in the first place. The vitality of it. Ride Like Hell sounds like it does because we attacked that.
No kidding,
every night.
Sure did.
We got up on stage and played it like our life depended on it, like it was the last time we were going to play it. As long as I do that, it'll be Ride Like Hell. When that's not happening, we'll stop.
Yeah. No, that's well put. How you will treat that song like a lost song you ever played, because that's how it feels like when you hear that song. It does have that feel, and that's probably why it stands out so much for a lot of people in general.
They can feel it.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, Gordy, it's a real pleasure, man, having the show here tonight, and almost out of time here, so I just want to thank you for coming on, and especially your Thanksgiving evening, enjoying it. Actually, here in Canada, and I know not in the U.S., but here in Canada, it's Thanksgiving, so. Very cool to have you here on the show, man. A very special night, and I've been listening to you for such a long time, and so special actually meet you and talk to you in person here on the show. It's fantastic. Hopefully, get you back to the show again real soon, so Mark, we can talk to you sometime, because he's saying he wants to talk to you as well. And,
well, there's lots more to cover. Listen to me now. The record we put out during COVID. See if that's any good. See if we still got it, man.
Yeah. Right on, man. So before you go, is anything new you're actually producing right now? Releasing in the next little while? Anything new?
Well, even though, we did put out a new record right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah. So, we hope to eventually get out the end of this year or the beginning of next year when everything's are wide open and we go play those songs. But I think people will be, especially our fans, will be pleased and surprised to see us come out as a power trio again, which
that's cool.
We have not done in many decades. Awesome. And there's something about that vitality of a 3-piece band.
Yeah.
Just the fury that you can conjure up with just 3 instruments. I'm kind of ready to go back there. So
that'd be awesome.
I feel like what we're going to bring when we come back out of the house.
Wow.
Watch out, man, because I've been breathing this Texas air for a long time, man. I'm going to come out.
Now you're fired up.
Oh yeah, I'm coming out fired up.
No, right on. Because I mean, to me, that's your best. When I see you with a 3-piece, when I look back, that's the best. When I think again, ride like hell. Like, oh, that's Gordie Johnson right there, man. That's him right there. No, good to hear. Excellent, sir. Excellent. So, hey, thanks, Gordy, being on the show again tonight. And hopefully we can drag you back on the show again real soon. We can carry on this conversation with Mark as well, because it's great talking with you. And
right on, man.
Awesome pleasure, sir. Awesome pleasure.
Right.
Well, thanks, Gordy. Thanks for you folks
Cheers.
for watching the show. And before you go, Gordy, any people should check out, where can people check out more on you on social media and what's happening?
Oh, especially go to Big Sugar Band on YouTube. Our YouTube channel's got, I produced several different video series over the lockdown. Black, White, and Blues, especially, I'm proud of. Listen to us play a bunch of blues with a bunch of different guests, Sue Foley to Joe Satriani and all kinds of people like that. So it's a good series.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, check it out, folks. But once again, Gordy, fantastic, sir. Real honor, real pleasure. And I'll bug you again real soon.
All right, man.
I'll promise you that. Well, thanks, folks, for watching. Thanks, Gordy. And we'll see you guys real soon. Take care, all the best, and thank you. See you soon. All the best. Thank you, Gordy.